this is an opportunity to bring life and energy back to the Garden and celebrate someone that's mean a lot to New York basketball in general. So for Stephen A. Smith to dismiss, and again, we have to remember who is speaking here. It is Stephen A. Smith. If you were to even consider retiring Bernard King, you would have to retire Carmelo Anthony's jersey. No qualms, no ifs, ands about it.
I just don't think he has it anymore.
Should any team want Carmelo Anthony?
Blasphemous.
Yes, sir, Carmelo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to catch our weekly podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're a returner, a subscriber, or better yet, a Control the Narrative member, these three fine gentlemen are joining us tonight. We have an all-star studded cast for tonight. Then we appreciate the members a little bit more. It's November 21st. Thanksgiving is a few days away. Melo's still not on team. What we've been doing here over the past few weeks and months is going through each team and being like, yo, where does he fit? What's going on here? And like the speculating, to be honest, I don't know if this is like a selfish thing, but it's just getting like really annoying when nothing is really coming to fruition. So instead of doing that, this podcast, we're going to do it a little different and be like, yo, instead of, yo, this team needs him or this is where we think he should go, it's like, yo, let's look at the players. Let's look at this player and how he could be doing better than him and just switch it up so we're not doing the same thing every single week. It's tough. We're officially past the point of 3 years ago when he signed in Portland for the first time. So it's tough. There's no other way to put it, man. Like this shit sucks without him in the league. But let's bring on the guests for today. Like I said, all-star studded cast, faces that you've seen plenty of times. Let's go top right, Kenny. Big posted up tonight. Kenny, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. Just shout out to Shayna, man. She came up with this whole concept, man. With just not me this time. It was her.
Kenny, always known for literally having better backdrops than the fucking host of this podcast. So shout out, Kenny. Elmac, he's been out here a few times. Been a minute though, my guy. How you been?
Good, man. Good to be on again.
Of course, bro. Nice to have you. And then bottom left, last but certainly not least, Joe, rocking his Kansas City. How you doing, my guy?
Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby.
Shit, man. Let's get into this shit because, again, Kenny, Joe, you guys have been on a few times over the past few months, and it's just been like this constant merry-go-round of, yo, Melo should go to this team or this team needs him and all the shit. So, like I said, we're going to do this a little bit different because I just don't want to reiterate the same shit of, oh, the Knicks need him or this team needs him. Like, that shit's just getting like, we can only say that for so long. So, Kenny, we'll start with you in the top right. And for everybody listening and watching, I tried wording this the best I can. Shout out Jen for helping me word this a little bit better. But the question that I want to get all of your opinions on is if you could swap Melo for two power forwards in the league right now, who would it be? And why do you think Melo would perform better? Kenny, you got two names in mind?
There's one guy in Milwaukee. Now, his last name is kind of hard to pronounce, but it starts with an S, but it's Mamuka something like that.
I thought you were going Giannis.
No.
You go straight for Giannis, respect.
No, I wouldn't do that, man. But this guy, he was averaging 0.2 3-pointers a game. He's like 1 for like 4 or something like that. And I'm like, he definitely can slide and take over those. He plays like 30-plus minutes. It says 30.8 minutes, something like that.
Sandro?
No.
Is that who you
I think so. I think that's what it is.
Sandro Mamukelashvili?
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, he definitely could slide and take his spot. And, he'd be productive and they slide him, put him and Giannis out there. Middleton, like he fits. I think that's one player that I saw that came to mind. Also Portland, Winslow. and I think it's Waterford or Watford, something like that. I think those two teams that I saw that I know he can make an impact, especially. And then they have, if you do Lillard, Simons, Jeremy Grant, Melo, and Nurkic, like that's can't go wrong with that five either.
And they got Melo at the 3?
Yeah. 3 or 4. You can put Grant at the 3 and then put Melo at the 4. Or like vice versa. And then Miami, they only have like guards and small forwards. I didn't see no power forwards except for Haslam. That was the only power forward they had listed.
I think Strus is technically a 4, no?
I don't think they have him listed as
Max Strus.
He played for
a
the Heat.
small forward.
For the Portland?
No, for
Miami.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. He's a power forward. He only 6'5" too, by the way.
And everybody else was like guard heavy for Miami. I was like, okay, damn, I didn't know they were that guard heavy.
Yeah, and they don't get any points out of the shoe king.
Nah.
PJ Tucker. They don't get any points. You get defense and that's it. So
he's in Philly now.
He's in Philly now, though.
No, that's right on Philly. But Philly. When I get to my turn, that's definitely an opportunity in the league as well. So
yes.
I don't think they will utilize him here. Doc doesn't play the players right to me. He doesn't use everybody right. So that's why I didn't put him down there. You know, I'm from Philly, so I'm definitely for that. But
I think every single time Kenny's come on, it's somehow snuck in at some point during the episode. Philly might make sense, and then we always go back to Daryl Morey being the GM, and that's like, nah, like no shot.
Yeah, nah. And the way Doc's been like with rotation, like I said, it doesn't fit. But that was a couple teams that I saw as I looked through like each team, like one by one, and I was like, oh, these teams would probably be better versus everybody else, because everybody else, they're not really. He's not going to want to go there anyway because it's there wasn't, they're not contenders or anything like that.
So Milwaukee and Portland. Portland's interesting, man. They're obviously fucking balling the hell out this year, it's cool to see. Like, I don't know if they're going to win the championship, but just like seeing Dame on a team that's number 1 in the West is cool. We'll all always have a special place in our heart for the Blazers, but do we
really trust Chauncey Billups with Melo?
Great point. That's a great point.
Just saying.
I'll trust him better than the other coach I had. The other coach over there.
Oh, holy shit! Stats.
Oh, Stats.
Anybody over that?
I'll take my chances with Billups versus Stats.
Yeah.
True.
Oh my, go ahead.
There's so many different ways you can really look at this, but let me highlight a couple teams, and I guess this isn't an Odell Beckham situation where we're looking to join a team that's a contender. Like, this guy just wants to be in the right situation in the league. So there are tons of young teams that could use him. And many of us are Knicks fans, and the Knicks are probably one team, unless they make a trade, he doesn't fit on because of how deep they are and the amount of guys. But one of the teams that I definitely highlighted was the Nuggets. So they got Kankar, and he is just not performing. As a bench player, he's playing like 15 to 20 minutes a game, and they really don't have much behind Porter Jr. And we know Porter Jr. is a pretty good player. We roll him with Jokic and Murray. That makes a nice trio, but they don't have much firepower beyond that. And we already know how, literally this time last year, Porter Jr. went out with an injury and he was done for the year, and they didn't have Murray. So that really kind of limited the opportunities for the Nuggets. So definitely I got Denver as one. And then I'm going to look at another team is Utah. So I guess I'm very skeptical whether this is really going to work out for Melo, because you look at a guy that's starting in this league, and I'm Canadian. This is why I'm bringing this one up. Kelly Olynyk, who's averaging like 5 points a game and like 5 boards, is starting in the NBA, and Carmelo Anthony is without a job. So I know I'm not going to say anything more, but just stew on that one. Kelly Olynyk is in the league, has a job. Job has never been in question. and we have number 9 all time in the NBA scoring in the history of the league that is unemployed. I'll turn it back to the host.
Dude, and that's a Jazz team that is one of the best teams in the West so far. I don't know if that shit's gonna last, but like they've been doing that, to your point, like with him starting. So if they upgrade there, again, none of us are sitting here being like, yo, the Jazz are contenders or shit like that. I don't know. We'll see what the fuck happens, but yeah, he's putting up 12 points and under 5 rebounds in almost 27 minutes a game.
True, man.
Whatever. Interesting. Yo, real quick on the Nuggets front. This has been brought up a few times over the past few years. Like sometimes I see it in the comments on Control on Instagram and things where people are like, yo, go back to Denver. I just think and like, again, this question wasn't, where do we think Melo should go or where does he deserve to go? But I just think the way they treated him over the past few years, or really since he left the team, there's legit like a less than 1% chance of him even considering it. And again, that's not the question, but that's interesting behind MPJ.
Yeah, I think it's a fit. Like if you're just looking at strictly fits, he fits, but we know the history. It's like saying, could he not be on the Rockets? We know how the Rockets did him. He could be on that team in a blink of an eye because they do not have much of a team at 3-14. So
are they 3-14? Damn.
Yeah, they're that bad. So I think when you look at the opportunities for him to be in the league, there's lots. It's just really, is he going to get the chance?
Yep.
One can be skeptical if we're now approaching U.S. Thanksgiving and he's still not on a team.
Yeah. Wild shit, man. Never in my wildest dreams did I think after the season he had last year would I be like, all right, like he's going to struggle to find a team. Like no shot. Zero shot.
The last 2 seasons, really, man. He had before his last season in Portland, then now the Lakers this past season. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, man.
Yeah. Joe, go ahead. Which 2 players do you think he could be balling out way better than that are currently?
Well, see, I went a different route, but kept your question in mind. I went to ESPN and I looked through all the NBA teams and their depth charts for those particular teams. And what I did was I found 4 playoff potentially teams that I know he can fit on and play a valuable role. Number 1, Philly. Okay. PJ Tucker, Jordan Yang. Enough said. Do we really have to comment on why he should be plugged in minus George Yang? I'll take PJ. He play defense. You put Melo with PJ for the scoring part of it. That's a good mix.
0 points over 3 games though for Tucker. I just want to say that because people all the time will go, yeah, but he plays great defense. But then Melo will drop 26 off the bench, and people are like, but his defense. It's like it's never
enough.
It's never enough.
Right.
Like, yo, you can ball out offensively, but people are always going to point to your defense. But you can play
absolutely
play like shit offensively and be like, well, but do you play defense? It's like, and we'll get to that in a second.
100%. Okay. Golden State Warriors on their depth chart. They have Green. Okay, we get that. And then they have Kuminga as a backup or the 6th man, whatever. But Kuminga ain't not ready yet. Plug in Melo, 6-man raw off the bench, automatic scoring. You can go there. The Lakers. Okay, you have LBJ, no question, he's the man, whatever. But you back up, you have Winning Gabriel and the other Thomas Bryant, or what's the other guy name? Is this who's playing? Came to the team this season. I forget his name.
Yeah, that's him, Thomas Bryant.
Yeah, but Melo is way better than him. Come on now, he can go in there and play off the bench, 6-man role again.
Wait, Joe, did you say playoff teams?
Potentially playoff teams.
Okay, potentially playoff.
Use that word potential wise.
I was going to say, then we're talking about the Lakers. I'm like,
potential. Well, you talking about play-in tournaments. Let's playoff too. But Phoenix Suns, Torrey Craig, Wainwright. I don't know who that is. I know historically he can shoot it. He can 6'9", 6'10", can shoot it. And Cam Johnson, who was out, come on, Melo can come in and fit well with that team. They play good defense. They can hide Melo on the defensive end too. He can provide that 6-man offense off the bench. You know what I'm saying? He'll fit well with Phoenix, man. I don't know. You know, those are my top 4 teams, man. Really, Philly, Suns, and the Warriors. I think he can fit well with because they all play defense for the most part, right?
Steve, can I give you one more?
Go for it.
So a really interesting team to look at, and they're a stretch to make the playoffs based on how good the East is, but Charlotte Hornets, and you think of his relationship with MJ. So you look at that team. There is not much behind the starter, Jamal McDaniels. You think of what's happened with the team. Brook Knight had a DOI. We obviously know that Bridges has the whole domestic violence and is not on the team. That team is so light at a 4 stretch or 3 stretch. Melo could fit in so well, particularly with Melo Ball distributing the ball, and just their style of play is much like, what it looked like in Portland. There's comparisons you could make between the two on style of play and pace. It just seems like a big opportunity. I know you mentioned the Heat, and we kind of talked about that, but I think the Hornets are a real interesting one. I just don't know where the conversation has gone, or even that has even been considered. I think it's if some of these teams got on a great run and then they had an injury, like we saw a couple years in Portland, that might lead to it. But some of these teams are still, it's so early in the year. Like, we're only at like week 7. Teams are still trying to figure out what they have and how they'll alter. So maybe there's hope, because remember, don't think the Portland thing happened until early December. So fingers crossed, maybe that's something will work out. But I keep trying to tell myself that it's a little early.
It actually passed. Oh, Mac, it was November 14th.
Okay.
So that's why, like, we passed that point of like, all right, cool. We're like a few weeks into the season. Like, we're past that. That's why I don't want to say I'm fucking ringing the alarm or like pushing the panic button or anything, but like, it's getting late. It's getting late. And Carmelo and LaMelo would be fucking fire.
I don't think it would never happen, man.
I don't think so either. But like the Jordan thing, like I see that connection. That's interesting. Where I went, Joe, one of the teams you said is Golden State. So they're in like this championship hangover right now. They won that 4th one, and like that was really one that, without KD and all this shit, that really like solidified their dynasty if it wasn't solidified before. And they have someone, Joe, you mentioned him, JaMychal Green. He's getting 16 minutes a game. He plays the 4. He's shooting 20.8% from 3. And they're the 4th worst defensive team in the league in terms of points allowed. So it's not like they're already playing great defense and Melo would go there. And like there's 2 ways to look at it. A great defensive team like Miami, where they can kind of, and like Joe, you said it, but like hiding Melo. It's not really hiding Melo. It's really just like allowing him to focus on the parts of the game that he excels at better than almost anybody in history. And with Golden State, it's like, yo, you are already pretty bad at defense. And for me, I just think it's an effort thing. I think it's just they won the championship. It's going to take them a little bit to like get back into that that flow of things. But JaMychal Green had a career high in 3-point percentage in 2018, 2019. He shot over 40%. And since then, he's been down every single year besides 2020, 2021 season. So for me, I look at that and 16 minutes a game. Again, no one's sitting here being like, yo, Melo needs to go on a team and play fucking 30 minutes a game. All 4 of us would fucking love that, like 2,000%. But if he gets 16 minutes a game and is allowed to play his style of ball, and like, again, we know what the Golden State Warriors offense is, but he'll get a ton of fucking looks in that offense. He's a great 3-point shooter. I'm sure they'll draw up a lot of plays for him and actually utilize him. So that's one place I think would be interesting. And like, again, not even place would be interesting, but if you sub JaMychal Green for Carmelo Anthony and this dude's shooting 20% from 3 and he's not playing the best defense in the world, that's a win. Also, and we've been talking about this for months, Brooklyn. when you look at Markieff Morris, he's played in only 8 out of the 17 games so far. I know he played, I think, 17 games last year when Jokic shoved him and gave him whiplash.
Right. Yeah.
So he's shooting 37% from the field. He plays 10 minutes a game. And when you look at this guy who missed 8 out of the 7, he only played in 8 out of the 17 games. And Melo's played. This was pretty interesting. Like, I know that we all kind of like know a general number, but real quick around the horn, Kenny, start with you. How many percentage of games do you think Melo's played in since he signed in Portland?
Since he signed in Portland?
Yeah.
Well, he only missed time really with LA. Like, I think that's the time he missed the most. I think he played most of Portland.
It's like what percentage?
So about 75, 80.
75, 80? Oh, Matt, what do you think?
I'll go with 92%.
92, Joe.
I say it's higher than that. 95.
87. Which is still like really high.
Yes.
And this is a dude who's fucking 38 years old. Like he was 36, 37, 38. So like this dude's older and he's still playing at 87%.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that, especially lately in Melo's career, that we need to have a convo about. Like his durability and his ability to play in games. Like obviously he's not a high flyer like he was back in Denver and things like that. So the risk of him getting injured is so much lower than it used to be in Denver and even sometimes in New York. Like he's been relatively healthy. And again, 87% of games played in the last 3 years. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because in Brooklyn, I feel like there's so much shit going on that one of the things they're really missing is just stability. Like, really, it's just like a guy who's going to show up and like, you know what to expect out of him every single night. And they can't say that about Markieff Morris right now. Like Kyrie, we could talk for days about that shit. And like, they need guys who are just going to show up. And Melo's that guy and who's going to do, at least on the offensive side of the ball, better than almost anybody in history. So that was another name, Markieff Morris. That I'm like, bro, if you give him, and like, obviously, he'd probably get more than 10 minutes a game. I think that'd be interesting.
So
It would be interesting for sure.
I found out something interesting listening to Dwight Howard. Have you guys watched the Shannon Sharp?
I saw clips of it.
When he was saying, like, as far as the NBA goes, guys 30 and over, they don't want to give them multi-year contracts. So that probably had a factor to do with it too, like why they weren't giving him 2, 3, 4-year deals. Because they don't want to pay out a lot of money for people that's 30 and older and aging. Which, I mean, that makes sense, but then again, it's the NBA. A lot of these guys are not just 30 plus sitting on the couch. You know, they're training every day in the gym. So that might have put a factor in it too.
Fair. I don't even know if Melo would sign a multi-year deal at this point, to be honest with you.
No.
Yeah. Unless he do it to like have a farewell year.
Exactly. Like a 2-year deal in New York, which
I just want to say the Knicks team probably did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Interesting choices though. Like again, I think like combos like that is way more interesting than like what we've been doing at this point, more than what we've been doing the past few months, where it's like, yo, Melo should go to the Nets or the Knicks or whatever. It's like, no, let's pick out specific people and be like, yo, he will be fucking balling out better than this dude. So just think it's interesting.
It is.
Mac, let's start with you on this one. This was something that I looked up because I saw some scores of NBA games, and like the Thunder recently dropped 145 points on the Knicks. The Kings have been scoring like fucking crazy. This year, again, still early. Mac, you said it's like week 7 or something like that. Yo, real quick, sorry to interrupt if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but just wanted to let you know that we have merch at Control the Narrative, and it's pretty fire, in my opinion. This is the Pixel Melo t-shirt that I'm rocking. Anything from Cuse Melo to New York Melo, Hoodie Melo. On this shirt, we got Scapegoat merch, we got Black Ball merch, we got just regular Control merch. Shop CTRL the Narrative.com. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, stickers. Shop CTRL the Narrative.com. I think I got my point across. Go check it out. I bet you'll find something you like. Appreciate the support as well. Obviously, you know, the merch sales help us fund these podcast episodes that we get to record every single week. So appreciate you. And back to the show. Teams are putting up 112.6 points per game on average, which is the highest in 52 years since the 1969-1970 season. Again, we're very early. I'm not sitting here in April or March being like, yo, like what's going on? We're very early. But when you hear that teams are averaging more than they've averaged in 52 years, just what's your reaction in general?
Yeah, so I actually just looked that up. This is week 6, so it's not even we're not even that far ahead. And when you think of the amount of scoring that is happening, it's kind of surprising to a certain extent. But this also isn't the 90s. This isn't the rough and tumble basketball that we would see with the Knicks, when you'd have Ewing and Starks and Oakley and Mason and many other teams like the Heat or the Pacers or the Bulls kind of built in a similar fashion, or at least have pieces of that. It's a scoring league. The 3-point shot has become more and more. We got centers like, you got Rudy Gobert wanting to shoot threes. So it is truly become a scoring league. And for someone that has Carmelo's skill set, that is the player. That's the player. That skill set is the one that thrives in today's NBA. So yes, we're talking about Carmelo Anthony, and he is, in call it the twilight of his career. But I would say it's amazing that someone that is so prolific in today's NBA style of play, that he can't get a job. So you really have to go back and think about the politics of the NBA and his history and some of the other things that are clearly transpiring that are not public knowledge. And this is probably why he's currently not on a team. You think about, we mentioned just now the Nets. I think if there were one team that could have its stars players speak up and say that we were going to get Carmelo Anthony. Now, as a Knicks fan, it would literally break my heart to see him wearing that black jersey. But if we're talking about Carmelo Anthony playing in the league versus not, I would have to concede and be okay with that. But it's just amazing with someone that with his skill set and that can still produce at a high level. Like you look at the year that he had in LA, and from the 3-point percentage to, playing some very crafty veteran defense, it boggles the mind that he's not on an NBA roster, because there's far lesser players in the league right now.
Well said. Joe, thoughts?
For me, I just think teams are playing with more pace, man. You think about it, I did some quick research. You got, like, on top of my head, 6 NBA teams with 6 or more scores and playing with scoring double-digit points, meaning 10 or more points. You got 6 teams. You got Phoenix with 6 players, with Book, Bridge, Aiden, Payne, and CP, and the Cam Johnson who's hurt. You got your Rockets, 6 players in double-digit scoring. You got the Heat, the Raps. Then you got 2 teams with 7 players scoring in double-digit points, more than 10 points a game, in New Orleans and the Nuggets. So teams are playing with more pace, man. They pushing that rock, man. Shooting them threes, get up and down. I mean, that's the gist of it. You think about it, that's simple as it is right there. Playing more pace, getting more buckets, up and down, shooting threes. Everybody 1 through 5. You know what I'm saying? So
More
that's my
and more 3-point shots.
Exactly, man. That's crazy. When I saw that, you got the Pels with Zion, B.I., CJ, Jones, Murphy, and Nance Jr. all scoring 10 plus or more. That's
Lance
crazy.
Jr. having double digits.
Yeah, 10.3. That's crazy. And you got the Nuggets with Jokic, Murray, Porter, Boney, Hines, Bones, Gordon, Caldwell Pope, and Brown.
Yeah,
all scoring double-digit points.
Yeah.
So you think about that, man. It's a lot of teams just putting the ball in the basket, man. And to me, that's what it comes down to.
And there's a guy out there that can help teams do that more, and it's like Elmas said.
Ain't that crazy, man? Think about that. That's what he do. When you bringing Melo in, you bringing him in to put the ball in the basket, get buckets. We all know he ain't a great defensive player no more. We're not bringing him in for that. But in today's NBA, they putting that ball in that basket at a high clip. So why ain't the teams that need him bringing him in?
I wish I had the answer.
Yeah.
Kenny, anything to add?
I mean, it's you got to factor in too. A lot of the teams they're not traditional teams like it used to be. Like you had a legit power forward, a legit center, a legit guard, point guard, a legit shooting guard, and they played those positions. Now you got centers playing point guard, you got power forwards playing centers, small forwards playing it's all different. The game has changed, so I mean it's not surprising, and everybody plays perimeter ball because even in Philly, I can tell you right now, everybody in Philly, they're either holding their breath or they're screaming at the TV every time Embiid takes a three-pointer. They want him to go down low and be a big man, but he wants to play the perimeter. So it's like everybody's playing on the perimeter. So if everybody in your team is scoring behind the three-point line, then you're going to put up points. And then it's back and forth. It's like a foot race. It's like I said, it's no like slow it down, run the plays. It's get the ball, let's go. Everybody push it. That's going to happen. Teams are going to score, crazy amount of points.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to include this and talk about this on this podcast is because, just like Elmac said, like this is a league who openly is not prioritizing defense. Like there are so many rules in place now that make it so much harder to defend because scoring the ball is more entertaining than good defense. And it makes more people watch, and it sells more jerseys and all this stuff. We can go down the line. So with all that being said, and the league that it is now, it even more like infuriates me, like confuses the fuck out of me that Carmelo Anthony, like again, and we could talk about him not being on a roster, but for me, there should be teams like players, coaches, like publicly trying to recruit Melo to the team because of what he can do in every aspect of the game, offensively especially. Like passing, we know he's an underrated passer. We know how he could shoot from three. We know what he can do one-on-one. Like every aspect of the game offensively, this dude has almost mastered like passing. We can have a different convo about that, but like with all that being said, like the fact that there aren't teams like begging for this dude to play for them, and maybe there are privately, we don't really know because I said this last podcast, but when Melo signed with the Blazers back in 2019, that shit came out of nowhere. So there's always a chance that we can all wake up tomorrow and get a notification from Woe saying Carmelo signs with Brooklyn or Miami. Like there's always that chance. But the fact that we don't hear more people talking about it, and like I'm searching Twitter here and there, just like Carmelo Anthony or Melo, and there are people who like, yo, how is Melo not on the team? Like, I'm not sitting here and be like, yo, nobody says this. Like, of course there are. But the fact that the masses are not yelling, yo, I want my team to sign Melo. We need 3-point shooting. Like, even the Lakers fans, there's Lakers fans saying that shit now because they saw what he did for them last year. So for me, that's my point with this is the league is not a defensive league anymore. And the narratives run these player defensive personas of, oh, PJ Tucker's this great defender and this guy's a bad defender and all this, which like if you just watch the game, it's not true. So that to me just makes it even more frustrating that like it's not like teams are prioritizing defense. Like no, that's why we can't get Melo. Like they're openly signing players and scheming and doing all these things, obviously with defense a little bit in mind, but mainly with defense in mind.
There are 5 players in the NBA right now after 30 points or more. Right now,
that's crazy.
We haven't seen that since I don't know.
That's wild.
Guess who they are? The 5 players every 30 or more right now. Yep.
Luka.
Yep.
Embiid.
Yep.
KD. So
Yep. One more.
Oh, Shea.
Giannis.
Who?
Shea.
Nope. Giannis. Oh, Giannis at 29.5. There's one more.
Shea.
Nope.
Really?
He might have. He's close.
Who's the last one?
Jason Tatum. JT. Boston.
Oh.
That was fucking easy.
Yeah, he's just killing it right now.
Bro, Melo won the scoring title in 2013 with 28.9 points a game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 10 years ago. Wow.
Things
I know,
unchanged.
man. It's changing, man. It's becoming a scoring league, man.
Wow.
People want to see buckets, players in the league getting buckets.
We know.
And I think didn't KD and Kyrie Irving not blessed, but they advocated for Melo to be on Brooklyn.
Apparently.
Didn't I read that somewhere?
Apparently.
They were saying. But...
They've been trying to get him to Brooklyn. I know that.
They have. Yeah.
But the Nets management, anyway. Whole different combo for a different show. Joe, let's start with you.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, finish what you're going to say.
No, I just think, right, he would fit well with Brooklyn, man. I know everybody's one of the Knicks. I think as a six-man role, he would fit well with that group.
All right, last interruption, because if you're watching or listening to the podcast for this long, you probably fuck with us. And if you fuck with us, you'll probably fuck with all the perks that you get from being a Control the Narrative member, whether that's access to our invite-only Discord where we're talking basketball all the time, or opportunities to join the next episode of Control. So whenever we need a guest, I go in our Discord, I say, yo, who's free? Who wants to hop on the next episode? And I pick from there. You get 20% off merch forever, and then you also get member-exclusive merch, all by being a member. Tiers start at $2 a month. So if you fuck with us, go check out a membership, CTRLthenarrative.com, and I will see you in the Discord. All right, back to the show for good.
Speaking of the Knicks, you just quickly mentioned it, Joe, and I'm not going to sit here and say that, we need to get him to New York because, like we said before, there's really no fit for him there right now. It sucks as much as it hurts me to say.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about the Knicks and Carmelo is his name gets brought up a lot with the Knicks. Obviously, he's from here. He played arguably the prime of his career here. In my opinion, definitely the prime of his career. Something came up a few days ago. Stephen A. Smith and Jalen Rose were talking about the Knicks, and they were talking about how Bernard King's number is not retired, that Julius Randle was wearing 30, and they were like, oh, shit, they didn't retire Bernard King's number. So there's a little convo about that, and Jalen Rose goes, yeah, and they also got to retire Carmelo Anthony's, and Stephen A. Smith said he has to think about that. So, Joe, let's start with you on this one. Stephen A. Smith saying he has to think about the Knicks retiring Carmelo Anthony's number. What's your take on that?
I have a question first, maybe two. My first question, am I wrong in saying that while Melo played for the Knicks, did they get to the playoffs just that one time in 2013? Three?
Yeah.
First round exit, except the one with the 13 year, right? Joe,
are you gonna say what I think you're gonna say?
If you look at his totality of work with the Knicks, they got past the first round once. I know he came and made the Knicks good again, or whatever the case may be, being from that area, what have you. I get all that. But to retire a player's numbers, you have to put in some major work, get to some finals, Eastern Conference finals, ultimately a championship. But it never happened. So I would be on the fence. I can't say for 100% certainty that I would put retires Melo number in the Raptors. I'm just being honest. Melo's my man, 50 grand, but
fair.
I kind of side with Stephen A. The cause to pause, as you would say.
Fair.
That's my take.
Completely fair. Kenny, you agree?
No.
Why not?
Keep it real, Kenny. Keep it real, fam.
I don't agree, man. Because he like New York pretty much, because they were, and then they make it the year that they were calling him, like they made it to the second round. They beat Boston, and then the Knicks tape year.
Yeah, 2012, 2013, they got to the second round.
Yeah, so he made it twice. So like I said, he made New York one of the top teams in the East at that time too. Like them and Miami was going back for each other.
Yep.
So it was like, how can you not retire that man's number? And he scored 62 in the Garden. Like he broke a record in the Garden. Like and number 7 is popular because of Melo.
That's a fact.
In New York. So it was like you can't. It's just more. It's more than just You know, because there's a lot of teams that have people's jerseys in a number. I mean, the numbers like hanging up. They didn't really do anything. They didn't win no championships. They might have went to the playoffs, but none of them won championships.
You know who comes to mind? Nick Collison in OKC.
Yeah, there you go. And they did that off of him being on the bench and wearing the uniform every year.
He's a expansion. I don't count, man. It's an expansion team. I don't count. They're expansion.
So I mean, I don't know. Like I don't get the whole. You shouldn't go to the Basketball Hall of Fame too if you didn't win championships. Because my thing is, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's more than just the NBA.
Yeah.
So it's like there's other things you can do that can get your number retired. To me. So I mean, I didn't understand that. Why he said that.
Yeah. Elmac, I know you have strong opinions on this.
Oh, do I ever? Jesus. So let's start here. I don't know how much you know about Bernard King. You know, Bernard King only played for the Knicks 4 years. As long as everyone wants to talk about maybe the peak of Bernard King's career was with New York before his knees went out, he only played for the Knicks 4 years. He had a great year. I think it was his third year. He scored, what is it, like 30, I'm just looking, 32.9. And I think he led the league in scoring. I think in that same year, he scored almost 35 in the playoffs. They played 12 playoff games. I think they may have got to the conference finals, or maybe they got knocked out in the second round. But Bernard King was here for 4 years. They made the playoffs too. Melo's imprint on the Knicks is far greater than that as the number one scorer. You know, this is right around the time that, Knicks basketball was struggling with all of the free agent signings that the team had made over several years. And we're in salary cap hell. And, finally let's give them a little credit because they signed Amari Stoudemire, which, helped turn the corner on some of the things they were doing. And then Carmelo came in and the team took another big step forward. But Melo has been so important to the culture of basketball and, his accomplishments beyond, as was previously mentioned, is beyond just playing in the NBA. He is one of the most decorated Olympic athletes we've ever seen. He's played 1 year at college, and as a teenager took his team to the championship game in New Orleans where I was, and he won the title. He was a prolific player in high school. So we're talking one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And if you're going to retire his jersey in any one city, as great as he was in Denver, it's going to be in New York. That's an opportunity that the Knicks have, a franchise that is so looking for its next star. I can tell you right now, they don't have it. RJ Barrett would have to take some giant steps forward to be consistent. He's playing terrible right now, unfortunately for the Knicks. But this is an opportunity to bring life and energy back to the Garden and celebrate someone that's mean a lot to New York basketball in general. So for Stephen A. Smith to Smith, and again, we have to remember who is speaking here. It is Stephen A. Smith. If you were to even consider retiring Bernard King, you would have to retire Carmelo Anthony's jersey. No qualms, no ifs, ands about it. I could talk about this for the next 30 minutes, but I'm going to pass it back to you, Steve, and we can keep it moving. But there's no way that they should not retire his jersey. That should be a done deal. They could make that a special night it could lift the team for the rest of the season if they were to do it this year or next.
If all four of us were not in the building for that, I'd be
I'm getting on a plane. If you don't know I live in Canada, I'm getting on a plane and coming to New York.
1,000%. I would do that.
I would drive or catch a bus. I got two options. I can drive or catch the bus. There's no way I'm not going to be there. Yeah.
Joe, question. And if you still feel the same way, completely fine. Do you hearing Kenny and Elmac talk about that? Does that sway you at all, or do you still feel no, that's a playoff thing where you need to go to finals, which is fine, completely fine, but just curious to hear if any of that.
hearing El Mike talk about that, the off the court things Melo has been involved in and has done. I hear all that too. I I get it, man. I get it. I just think, man, it's all about winning. And he did more in Denver. They go to the playoffs every year he was there. And I would think he would be, well, obviously they ain't retired number, but he would be more get retired in Denver than New York because he did things for Denver that he didn't do in New York.
That's fair. I think the way he went out in Denver
True.
will always leave a bad taste in their mouth, which, like, they can feel how they want to feel. I'm not going to tell Nuggets fans or Denver people how to feel. But for me, like what Kenny said, like what Elmac said, like, when you think about what Melo did for the Knicks and New York in that time span, in those 6.5 years, making the playoffs 3 times, he got out of the first round once, nothing to write home about, not sitting here saying, holy shit, like, you know, this dude, bro, obviously they didn't accomplish what they wanted to, and he was here. But at the end of the day, this was a time where super teams were forming. This was a time when everybody was looking to team up, and Melo was the one dude. And, like, you could talk about Amari, but Amari, if we're all being honest, came here because the Knicks gave him 6 figures, 100 mil. Technically 9 figures, 100 mil or 8 figures. What is that? 3 plus 3 is 6, 8. 8 figures to come, 100 mil, and no other team was giving him that. I think, and it's 9 figures.
Yeah, I was going to let you correct yourself, but yeah,
I just want to make that clear. 9 figures. The next.
I was letting you work through it.
100 mil. So when you think about all of that, and you think about, and with all that happening, he was still like, yo, I'd rather win one in New York than multiple elsewhere. That to me, and like, this was a dude at the peak of his career, scoring champ, MVP candidate, all-star game after all-star game after all-star game, and just like everything that he tried to do for New York. And, you know, when we talk about championships, in my opinion, and successful teams, of course, it has so much to do with the players on the team, and especially the star player, like 2,000%. But to me, it's more situational. And again, we could talk about this shit for fucking
we can 100%.
Yeah, but for me, just like, again, the things he did for New York, restoring courts in Coney Island, and all the things that he's done that we could talk a ton about. I just think that if anyone really represented and put on for the Knicks and New York, there was nobody in my lifetime that I've seen do it. And like, I was born in '94, so I wasn't really aware of the whole Patrick Ewing era. But in the 21st century, to say the very least, there was nobody that did that as successfully as Carmelo Anthony. And
absolutely.
Just like, as classy as he did. Like, Melo talks about kind of taking Derek Jeter's blueprints into playing in New York and things like that. So again, I understand why it's a convo for people, and they're like, well, he didn't have any team success. Like, I understand that part, but I also don't understand when people like Joe, like, you understand what Melo did for the Knicks and New York and stuff. Like, that's not what you're saying. You're saying like, yo, you feel like you need to get to the finals. It's completely fine. But for a dude like Steven A to be like, I don't know about that one, when he, out of everybody, should know that.
Yeah.
That is the crazy part.
And then also, y'all think about, remember the All-Star game that year that they were in New York? He was like
2015,
like the host. Like, everything was going through him.
Yep.
Melo did this. Melo and Jordan, Brandon, Melo. Like, it was the whole All-Star weekend was based around him. The billboards and all that stuff was him. So it was like, how can you like?
And Kenny, to your point, he literally delayed surgery to be the host of that All-Star weekend.
Yes, he did.
Right.
Yes, he did.
So it's like, how can you not give him respect like that? Like,
yeah. And you know what, man, when he played for the Knicks, man, was it every season? The Garden was electric, man. Every game I watched on TV, the Garden was electric, man. Win, lose, or draw, they was hyped for them games, man.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say on this topic is, Joe, you mentioned that he made the playoffs every year in Denver, which was true, but every year in New York, he was an all-star.
100%. That was my point.
Yeah, which to me tells me, like, it was never his fault. Like, he did his part. And like, people want to talk about, oh, he's overpaid, he was money hungry. Like, he was an all-star every fucking year in New York. Like, what more else could you ask for this dude but to like put on for the Knicks? And he did that. And that was in a conference with LeBron. Every single year was an all-star. So there's one guy, you know, for a fact in your position, and like,
it wasn't all his fault either. The upper management man didn't get him to surround him with the best talent either, man. They ain't doing no favors at all.
Samuel Dallenberg, Jose Calderon.
Oh my God.
Vujicic, man, we could talk about
No, what's the big dude name from Toronto who played?
Bargnani.
Give all that money, was injured all the time.
Disaster of a
Oh
trade.
my God. Don't get me started on him. Andrea Bargnani.
Wild tenure, man. We're gonna look back at that shit. I guess we already are, but like years from now, be like, man, they didn't even give him a shot. They didn't even give the fucking guy a shot to like win in New York. So sucks, man. It sucks for sure.
I know. Crazy.
But word. All right, we're 48 minutes in. 3 questions. I only put 3 questions because I knew we were gonna have a convo, and this wasn't gonna be no like 4 or 5 question type podcast. So, Kenny, Elmac, Joe, as always, man, appreciate you guys all for hopping on and taking some time out. But before I let you guys go, I'm gonna give you the chance to control a narrative. Doesn't have to be Melo related, doesn't have to be basketball related, doesn't even have to be sports related. So if anyone has one, you could take the floor and control a narrative.
I have one real quick. Go ahead.
I don't have a narrative to control, but I just have. So I lost one of my good friends, my best friend, a couple months ago, and I didn't know how severe the stuff that he was going through because we didn't talk as much. So my thing is, if you have somebody that's like close to you like that, just make sure, no matter how much they tell you things are all right, just make sure you check on people because you never know somebody's mental state. And like, you know, that's devastating to have somebody, you know, just get that random phone call and tell them like, yo, your boy only has 3 days to live, and you never know like what was going on before then. So it's like, if you got anybody that you can make an impact in their life, you can talk to them, give them a word of advice, or just be an ear to listen. Just make sure you take care of that opportunity. Because, I mean, and then especially younger guys, because I don't know if you guys been watching the news. In Philly, a lot of the gun violence and stuff like that has been younger guys. It's been teenagers. It's been, like, kids killing each other. So it's like, if you can control anything in anybody's life, just take the opportunity and just share what you know. Just make sure you try to make an impact in somebody's life because you never know.
That's a great one. I feel like this time of year it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
And like in the summer and like all these different times, like it's way harder when people are just like busy, or like here, like this time of year, it's more family friendly, and not friendly, but like you talk to family, you have more combos like that. But that's a great one, dude. I love that.
I'm gonna go ahead and get mine out the way, man. I just want us, man, as humans, man, whether black, white, green, or indifferent, to be aware of our surroundings at all times. I've been really paying close attention to these recent killings, the shootings, the one in Virginia with the football players at UVA, and the other one at the University of Idaho with the murder of these college students being slain in an apartment with stabbed to death. To always be aware of these surroundings, man, all the time, because we live in a crazy day right now, man. Things are happening every other day. Seem like we got Virginia. Then I heard yesterday, I was reading about the football player in Mexico State got killed. So just be aware of your surroundings all the time, man, and never take anything for granted. Be aware, look, because these young people, man, didn't deserve to die like that. Shooting, coming home from DC on a trip, and then the other girls and the young man got killed in their own apartment. You know, just be aware, man. And shout out to their family and friends who lost their loved ones, man. I've been praying for you guys. I've been reading that story. So yeah, just be away from surroundings all the time, especially during the holiday season. There's a lot of crazy people out here, man.
Well said. Elmac?
All right, I'll touch on 2 quick ones really fast as we're wrapping up, and appreciate you having me on. So first and foremost, I would say holidays is stressful for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. So we get pulled in so many directions, whether it's work, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's other commitments. Just take some time and take care of yourself. You can't help your family members. You can't help anyone if you're not putting yourself in a good place. It may seem selfish to some that are so selfless, but you only get one person. You only get one shot in this world called life. So you got to take care of yourself. And we know we've talked a lot about Melo and many other things, and why is this guy in the league? I think the narrative that I would, as we wrap up Control, is it's so important that when you see something that you like, or you appreciate someone, or you see something great that someone's doing that inspires you, show them some love, give them some flowers, give them their props or their daps. I think it's just so important. Like I think in the world of negativity and cancel culture, and people think people are creepy and stalking, there's just so many negative things in this world. Give someone a compliment if you really feel genuine about it. It seems so arbitrary that you would do it, but I think it's so important. I think you can touch and make an impact with so many people, and the world just needs more positivity than we have right now. So you see something, call it out, tell them they're doing great. I think you make someone else's day, but I think you also can make yourself feel a little bit better as well, in putting some positivity back in a very negative world. Back to you, Steve. You're on mute.
Thank you. Even like, that's a great one. I said, even Takeoff, when Takeoff died, like one of his last interviews, he was talking about, I want my flowers. I don't want that when I'm not here. I want that shit now. And like, that's a perfect example. I feel like in this world, and like this has gotten very motivational, inspirational these last few minutes and serious, but in this world where like it's funny to make fun of someone for dick riding and all this shit, like you see all those fucking memes and shit like that online. But like even with this podcast with Melo, right? Like there's been a ton of people like, yo, you guys are a Melo dick riding fan page and all this shit, when like in reality it's really showing appreciation. Of course it's for like one dude mainly, but like we talk about different players on here all the time, whether it's Jay Smith, whether it's like all different types of people. So yeah, I like that one in terms of just like, dude, if you like something, or if someone has a nice jacket on, or you enjoy watching someone play basketball, it's not dick riding to be like, yo, Carmelo's my favorite player ever, and like he should be in the league and stuff like that. So well said. I think we were 3 for 3 with those there. So good shit, boys.
Absolutely.
Good shit, Will. Kenny, Elmac, and Joe, as always, man. Always great pod with you guys. Elmac, happy that we got you back on here because it's been a minute.
Absolutely, Elmac, been a minute.
And Kenny and Joe, man, you guys already know the deal when you guys hop on. So for real, appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. And
you too.
We'll try to get one of these in next month.
Too, man.
Hopefully, Mel be signed by then.
Bro, we've been saying this for like 5 months by now. So.
Hey, keep hope alive.
You never know. You never know.
I know, right? All right, plugs, man. One love. Have a good holiday, dude.